Shelley, darling, will you please light these candles for me?
Oh, Mary, darling. Astonishing creature.
Aye, Lord Byron.
Frightened of thunder, fearful of the dark, and yet you have written a tale that sent my blood into icy creeps. Look at her, Shelley. Can you believe that bland and lovely brow conceived of Frankenstein?
The whole idea of monsters and evil forces, I think, were much more a part of everyday life and believed because they had no other explanation.
The publishers did not see that my purpose was to write a moral lesson of the punishment that befell a mortal man who dared to emulate God.
Hurry.
Frankenstein's monster, when Mary Shelley wrote it, you know, the imagination of that period, that's all they could do is write stories and be as detailed as they could about these creations.
I don't even consider these monster movies. I always say that there are no monsters in these movies, just people with very bad problems.
Here's the final touch.
It's not a horror story, it's a science fiction story. And it had to do with a lot of the potentials that were seen to be the possible dangers of scientific advancement.
Think of it, the brain of a dead man, waiting to live again in a body I made with my own hands. With my own hands.
They were just beginning to get into the idea of using surgical technique to restore significant quality of life issues for people. I mean, it hadn't been possible before, and it was just beginning to be. And there was a lot of speculation as to how much you could improve a person surgically. And I think that a lot of that was what Mary Shelley was playing with.
She's alive! Alive!
It's one of those themes that is brought out by all those monster movies, and particularly Frankenstein, who's a classic victim. He was part of this ambitious dream of a scientist to kind of better God in a way and create life himself, and he's brought to life, and then he's left on his own. He's very much a victim.
Everybody thinks he's just a monster and he's really scary, but I know that he's misunderstood. He's Lenny in Of Mice and Men, and he's the Elephant Man, and he's a man-child, and he's just misunderstood. And that gives him a whole complexity, and I think you watch Boris Karloff and you get that.
Will you play with me?
Any kid who's ever felt like the outcast at school or didn't fit into the cliques has always been that kind of character that's just trying to make sense of, I don't want to hurt anybody, I just want to fit in and I just want to understand what my place is.
No!
He doesn't mean to kill this little girl. You feel sorry not only for the little girl, you feel sorry for him because you know it's kind of all over. Frankenstein has to be scary, and he has to be a monstrous. But I felt like in the original movie, you have to feel sympathy for him. And that's a fine line because you don't want to get sappy. And Frankenstein, he's angry, and he's willing to kill, and people are trying to kill him, and so he's got all this baggage.
The monster is, like any of us, really looking for love and acceptance. And it's sort of a tragic tale of what can happen when a human being or a monster doesn't get that. You end up pulling for him in a way.
Friend, good. Friend, good.
I saw The Bride of Frankenstein because that's so great. That's also a terrific movie, and some people say it's better than the original. And because they were so well done, the people who made them loved them.
All I watched when I was a kid were science fiction and especially horror movies. And I grew up with, Famous Monsters magazine. I had every one.
If you read Famous Monsters in the 60s, every issue had a picture of Frankenstein in it. So again, it was part of your psyche. So I don't know if I chose it as much as it chose me.
We're far enough along the series of films now for them to have their own iconic history. When I watched the original, everybody thinks they know it's alive, it's alive, it's alive. And I watched it thinking, it's going to be melodramatic and silly. And it is melodramatic, but it's rather magnificent, actually. It's the central piece of the original movie.
Oh, it's alive!
It's alive! It's alive!
There is a kind of relish in seeing a story retold, over the years, and a new generation's perspective on it.
Something down here.
And a new generation's take on what that would be like.
I'd say he's a size 17. About 360 pounds, 8.5 to 9 feet tall. There's a bad gimp in his right leg. 3 copper teeth.
How do you know he has copper teeth?
He's standing right behind you.
No!
Oh my God! Frankenstein monster!
Monster? Who is the monster here? I have done nothing wrong, and yet you and your kind all wish me dead!
When I knew I was going to do it, obviously your mind is going, oh, this is an incredible opportunity. But while doing it, the script and the movie and the storyline are so completely original.
Now listen, Carl, whatever you do,
that you really feel like you're creating
stare at him.
Frankenstein's monster for the first time.
I'm staring at him. Is that a man?
Actually, it's 7 men. Parts of them anyway.
By exposing me, you have condemned me! Me and all of humanity!
You have a character that has a personal history with everybody, and yet you have maybe an idea of a different approach to it. Not so much what everyone remembers in the past productions of it.
May others be as passionate in their hunting of you.
There's a fan base there that's very easy to upset if you start changing the rules or redesigning certain things that are kind of, built in. And Stephen is such a huge fan of those original characters that he was always conscious of retaining the original mythology, yet still wanting to show you something different and exciting.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil!
Frankenstein is such an icon. I said he had to have a flat head, he had to have bolts on his neck, and he had to have the Doc Martens on his feet. And I said, other than that, we were really going to play with him.
We did facial molds, and they had the bust of me. It sort of just developed.
Stephen really wanted it to look like Shuler, because Shuler has such a great face. He didn't want a monster or something scary. He wanted a real humanity to the character. And when we started designing it, if I kept Shuler's face and built on top of it, it would have been just so big in areas. So what I did was took Shuler and built him out and thickened his face up, but trying still to sculpt it so it looks just like Shuler, but bigger.
The most exciting part is like saying, okay, we have to do a Frankenstein now. It's not just about scars and pieces of skin together and things. Let's do something else. You need to make sure the vision is appropriate, because it's already hard to work with guys in suits on set, but if they don't see what they're doing and if they can't walk or they can do this and that, you don't want to create too many limitations. You will have limitations, but you try to minimize them.
I said, I want something like the Nautilus, to where it's like all old iron. It looks like 1800. It was, but a really beautiful design to it, and rivets. And then Stephen said, yeah, we'll put a little lightning storm going on when we see the top of his head. Like, oh, that's cool.
It's like one of those little toys. I have leg extensions that go on at the end, hands that go on separately, and the makeup.
It takes 2 of us to apply his face makeup, and then it takes about 3 or 4 people to get him into the suit, and then there's the mechanics. So when he walks on set, there's about 7 or 8 people following him down.
I say I feel like Britney Spears, and I have 8 or 9 handlers, so.
And let him look up a little bit, look up to the sky. And cut.
Deep down, there is some sexy something about him, and I'm so glad that I could bring that out.
Frankenstein talks. That's the big difference. And you got Shuler, who did a great job.
You did this to me, Mr. Sommers, and you will pay somehow.
I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
I had read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I read the book about 20 years ago.
It's just a scratch.
Probably seen him only in about a half a dozen movies. I think he's been in 150.
Yeah.
The folkloric vampire, in the tradition that Stoker would have been familiar with, was a walking corpse. I mean, it was something that came back from the dead, was still dressed in its death clothes. Romantic poets borrowed the vampire from folklore and then turned it into an aristocratic nobleman who was a seducer of women. That goes way back to Lord Byron. The Dracula figure that Stoker created has been romanticized mainly by 20th century popular culture.
Why does that thought of something dark that comes in the night and moves to your neck, why is that appealing to some people? It's terrifying, but it's also, you know, you're drawn to it.
As I have told you, my dear, ours will be a different life, without material needs, a life that will last through eternity.
The minute you evoke death, you evoke terror, which is part of the fascination of the vampire, because the vampire walks around in this usually very beautiful human form, indistinguishable, except sometimes by its habits from other human beings. But it's dead, and it wants you to go with it.
You admire my ring?
When I look at it, I see glimpses of a strange world. A world of people who are dead, and yet alive.
It is the place from which I just returned.
It frightens me.
Well, it will drive away your fears.
It has something to do with the sort of quiet torment of a person who has made a compact with the devil and will live forever, but is not allowed to feel anything.
To die, to be really dead, that must be glorious.
Why, Count Dracula.
There are far worse things awaiting man than death.
You know, he doesn't want to be the living dead. He'd rather be living or dead, not this.
Maybe it's the immortality, and maybe it's the sexy getup. I don't know what it is, or that he can fly or turn into various creatures, or that he gets all the girls. Done well, people cannot get enough of Dracula. I like him because he's cool.
Let us begin!
There, my darlings. Do not worry. I shall find another bride.
What? Do we mean so little to you? Have you no heart?
No! I have no heart!
I think the Dracula myth is a sexy story. What exactly is sexy about it is a kind of perpetual mystery and an enigma.
I think Dracula catches the attention because he is evil, but he's very sexy. But the fact that it sucks blood, it feels like it's a search for love. It's not. Of course it's not.
As you're doing this thing with her, you could lean in a little bit closer to her. I just think you could get a little bit, and then do this. Then your head kind of comes back as your fangs come out. You know, so yeah, there you go. It's kind of like a pompous rock star, but in a really good way. How Richard pulled that off, I don't know. It just feels so period.
Now that it is, as you yourself have said, a triumph of science over God!
Cut fun of it. That was great. I'd say this is the only time in my career, was with Richard, where what I saw when I was directing it wasn't necessarily what would end up on film. I've never had that. I always be like, looking at dailies and going, I don't remember him doing that before. I don't know what it is about him, but he does something sexy and twisted and really cool.
Richard was one of those surprising people that just jumped right in and said, I can do it, and did it.
Camera will actually be looking at you like
I didn't really practice much with him. I said, dude, let's go over and try something. He jumped in and he showed me he was comfortable, like right off the bat, and just started adding to it.
Why can't they just leave us alone? We never kill more than our fill, or less than our share.
I love all that. I love the hanging upside down and walking across the ceiling and all of that. I would get a real buzz out of it. I kind of treat it as if I've paid to do it. And I would probably pay it because I like that sort of stuff. Now, if they had to bury me in a coffin, and or in a really tight space or something, that might be a different story.
Requiescat in pace.
Hello, Gabriel. If anyone's really got pressure in this movie, it's him. Because, Gary Oldman did a great job. There's so many great Draculas, and there's not a lot of people can list. I mean, Van Helsing has been played before, but not a lot of people remember them like they do Dracula.
Before you go, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Count Władysław Dragun. Born 1432. Murdered 1462.
It's such a treat for me to work with Richard Roxburgh because I first saw Richard on stage when I was 21 years old, and it was right around that time when I was contemplating becoming an actor, and I remember his performance so vividly. And since then, I've seen him do what I think is the best Hamlet I've ever seen, and some stuff on television and film, which is remarkable. And people used to ask me when I first came out, who do you look up to? And I used to say Richard Roxburgh and Geoffrey Rush and these great Australian actors. And I told Steve this. He says, I love it. He says, because you guys are enemies, and I want there to be that feeling of awe as well as competition between the two of you.
You're too late, my friend.
Not that it's very competitive. It doesn't feel very competitive, but it's certainly acting opposite Richard, who's a wonderful actor. It feels like you got to bring out your best,
You are too late, my friend. My children live.
Then the only way to kill them is to kill you.
Correct.
I love the myths and the legends. I had no interest in exploding them, but I had a lot of interest in expanding them. I love these characters, and I love some of their iconography, the way they look. But Dracula's on Sesame Street, so clearly you can't have the widow's peak and the cape. There's a couple scenes where he wears a cape, and it's really to great effect, but never because we're like winking or nodding or laughing at the character.
I did a lot draw about Dracula. The first idea was the contemporary dress, but Steve tell me no, is a danger come maybe too much pop star, and we decided the style the 18th century, but with the touch much modern.
Action, Richard.
The first cape that I did for the test is a black, and the inside is a red. But during the test, I tell me no, is it too much?
There's that bat again. Dracula turns into a bat, but I'm not afraid of bats. I thought, but what if my bat had a 15-foot wingspan? That'd be different.
Steve was very keen on having this dual thing between something more human and extremely beastie, like.
We hint at during the earlier parts of the film, but you don't really fully understand what's going to happen to Dracula. Particularly with the Hell Beast, he really wanted him to go all the way to a creature, and so not really retain a shred of humanity after he was done.
I had done a design for that, taking Dracula's kind of nightmarish image of what he represents and kind of bringing that to life, which really doesn't have much to do with the actor or a human. It's more that just essence of evil that he represents. Add a lot of bat feature into the face and giant claws and just kind of pumping him full of adrenaline, you know what I mean? This super uber bat creature.
It took me maybe 2 hours to come up with the design. It was just done, and it felt right. I brought it in, they felt it was right, we all liked it. We were great. It's like we just showed the director, he loved it, that was it. A lot of this is mimicking the sonar ribbing of a bat. Vampire bat has like these gutters where the blood can trail out so it can do its thing.
A lot of that is informed by character. If it's an evil creature, you want to make sure that there's some sense of menace and anger and venom that exists with the character on every level. The way that they look, their color, how they move, all of those sorts of things.
It makes him so evil. I mean, it's so blasphemous and evil that, it makes him a great villain.
Give me life!
I put a lot of effort in the writing of the script and writing of that character, and then I happened to get Richard. And it's funny, my wife saw a couple of Richard's scenes cut together, and the next day I heard her on the phone to one of her friends, and she said, "You're just not gonna believe this guy's playing Dracula." Starting off, I kind of had the least interest in Dracula because I thought, oh God, you know, it's been done so many times and done brilliantly several times. And how do you top that? And especially when it's not called Dracula. And so Richard had his work cut out for him. Richard has no fear. And he took it, and the proof is in the pudding. He did a great job as Dracula.
And beg the devil that this time they stay alive.
Mr. Talbot seems to have heard about the unfortunate constable last night. It's disturbing him.
But he doesn't understand. There's a curse upon me. See that scar? That's where I was bitten by a wolf. Only it wasn't a real wolf, it was a man. A werewolf. I killed him. Now I change into a wolf at night when the moon is full.
Can't tell me that's a dog.
You are quite right. It isn't a dog.
I know a man who has the power to help you.
No one can help me.
The werewolf is a really great character. I think most people think, oh, he's a guy turns into a werewolf and kills people, and I suddenly realize, oh, the werewolf is more like a drug addict or an alcoholic where, you know, during the day, he's just fine. He could be your brother, your uncle, your dad. He's really a good guy, but at night, his demons come out. On the one hand, you're thinking, they gotta kill this guy. On the other hand, you're saying, oh, when they do, I'm gonna be really sad.
I killed Bela. I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's gonna be next.
The werewolf tradition is the animal or lower half of human nature. The predator, the dark side, what Jung calls the shadow. And that's the animal nature that we try to control. It's the nature of the beast within.
The hook of any character is always their journey, the arc. I was told that I would get to make that transition between this young prince into this, you know, great big, huge, 10-ton, scary werewolf. It was great fun. I thought, excellent.
Have the rope! Have the rope!
Like this, and then one hand, no, then grab your face and sort of rip your face off and rip your body and ripping and ripping it. We've seen so many times guys growing hair, turning into wolves. I said, we can't do that. The growing hair thing, no matter which way you do it, stop motion or CG, it's just been done to death. And so we came up with our own way. We thought, what if the man starts ripping his skin off and ripping his face right off, and underneath him is growing this werewolf?
The way they pitched it was fascinating, the way in which this creature apparently comes from within, which was, and I knew exactly, I thought, oh, great, with that I can run and fly with that.
Action! Will Kemp came in, when we were casting in London, and he came in kind of off the street, and he just blew us away. He was like, his performance was great, and on top of that, when we asked him to turn into a werewolf, he was contorting all over the place.
No, wait, I only have a moment. But no, listen, I built a secret.
So it wasn't until later we found out that he's a ballet dancer. He's done Swan Lake. He's done, I'm like, oh, that makes sense now.
His body will do all these extraordinary things, you know, and very much uses it in his acting, and is a sweetheart.
Whenever you try to reinvent something so well known, you always try to, at the same time, give it justice and learn as much as you can about when it was created and why.
Run! Anna!
But, you know, I only do half this part, and the rest of it is really ILM.
We had to develop a lot of ways of tearing the skin and tools to make that work. And it's very tricky stuff because, you know, it has to look like the skin is pressing against the fur, and then when you take off the skin, the fur pops out and so on. So it's very complicated.
One of the challenges with the Van Helsing project is things like the werewolves, where you have seen them in other movies, but, you know, so how do you come up with a different twist? And now it's one of those things where we've sold the director on this, so we have to figure out how to do it. So we take a look at some R&D of ripping up cloth material, trying to figure out how do we determine where it splits, do we simulate that, do we define it? You know, we've got to have some flexibility because we know once we're into the shot, Stephen's going to want to split in different areas. And he's going to transform in different phases. His face may start transforming first in terms of shape, and then his hands are going to rip out. And, you know, so we have to have that flexibility built in.
That's the werewolf. It looks amazing. The artwork's just phenomenal.
So did they show you any of the wolf stuff or anything?
Nothing yet. We just arrived.
Oh, okay.
So.
We're gonna head over to the art department next.
Okay. Oh, okay.
They've got tons of concepts.
They've got tons of concept.
Oh, yeah.
We actually have been building you in CG, both as
Right.
a digital double and werewolf.
So,
and the other
wow.
things, so.
And a lot of this was done for your character.
We go through a lot of reiterations for one creature, so this is just...
Yeah, this is a small sample of all the research that we did.
We love to look at nature. It always has to come back and kind of be real. Even though it's very much a fantasy creature, a werewolf, it still has to be grounded. So we had a cast of a real wolf skull in, and we were checking how do the teeth bite and how do they overlap, and really getting into that anatomy.
When they ask you to design a werewolf, it's like, well, yeah, exactly, what do you do? It's like redesigning water. All the models are based on this guy. This is kind of like the Bible wolf guy. So in model meaning the digital model of the werewolf, this is the base for all of them. We built all the other wolves. That's why you see how the design varied here up on the wall? Yeah. Because we used the information that was the digital grab from this. Say this guy was scanned in. We used the information, and that's why it modified this to come to this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, because we had to make sure that we could use all the information for all of them.
I got you.
Stephen Sommers kept on asking us to make the legs stronger, so that drove the design too. So from the original concept, which was kind of feral looking and skinny and wild looking, I took pieces from that and then created the three per the personality of the actor and the characters that they were playing.
When we build a clay maquette, we want to build something that we can scan into the computer. It kind of saves a lot of time down the road in the computer graphics pipeline. The scan really gets a lot of the proportions and all that stuff right, not necessarily all the details.
Here we're really just trying to get a feel for how this character is going to act, how he's going to run around. He is human, but he wants to be resembling a wolf, and so we're combining the kinesthetics, if you like, of those two challenges. We had real wolves come in, which was fantastic. Beautiful animals. We composited their real fur onto the top of the creature we were building for a guide splines of not only length but also properties of hair. Here you can actually see artwork, just the computer hair splines we're laying in that will be his hair eventually, and here you can see the actual CG sculpture on top of that. Here we just did a simple expression test just to make sure that the splines are tracking and behaving correctly on the face. Basically, we're changing the surface that we've created shapes on, so that was quite a challenge, meaning that as a surface is transforming, it's also tearing, and with the simulation and dynamics of it tearing and shredding, it's being changed by metaphysical effects that we can't plan or time, so we had to make a system that would work irrelevant of whether it was torn in half or torn in 10 pieces or 20 pieces.
And certainly with the wolves, you've covered them with fur. Some areas we need very short fur and it has to lay flat. You have a whole team of people that do nothing but simulate the hair and the fur. And then we have to get the look right, so we have to put on special lights and deal with that and make all that interact, and then we have to add wind and other types of things. So it adds a whole nother layer of complexity to the process.
It's a fine line between getting too real and making it this really new, cool, kind of fresh thing too. There's some balancing there.
And then the other thing we put in, like this, you know, bullet here and all those types of things.
Good, move on.
All right, we'll go ahead and just refine it and put it out to film.
Yep.
Great.
Time to go.
Thank you.
Typically, we would transmit 2 to 3 times a week.
Close-up shot, that reads and that reads.
Like every other day, we would put together a list after dailies and say, okay, these are the 10 shots that we want to review with Stephen, and we transmit those and we discuss them. He'd say, okay, can you make the wolf do this? Can you make that a little bit darker or whatever? So it was a very good communication process.
Is this placement working better for you?
Let's see in the cut.
Here, let me go back.
Yeah, much better, done.
All right, so we'll move on. Great.
Final.
Thank you.
Everything that the creature does has to be decided. If he blinks his eyes, it's on this frame. If he does this, it's on this frame. And every single one of those details, every nuance, everything that you see in the shot has been discussed over and over and over again on every single visual effects shot in the movie.
Couple of questions here. Now, this is the version without the shirt, and I'll show you the version with the shirt. So part of the question is, do we bother putting in the shirt for this one shot? The other question is just in terms of the amount of dripping and so forth. Right now I'm just figuring 3 or 4 areas that are dripping, just, you know.
Yeah, and some drool when he opens his mouth.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, yes. It's such a fast deal. I think the drool will read a couple drops, that's fine. I don't think you have to worry about the shirt.
Okay.
No one's looking at a shirt. I mean, he could have a shirt there for all I know.
Is it possible to think that that werewolf is absolutely real? I think in the moment it is, but I think if on reflection, I mean, of course it's not. There's no way that it is, because there's no such thing as a werewolf, or is there?
A large part of this character is to get the physicality of him and that change. When you read and think, oh, great, look, I get to jump here, and how heroic, I'm going to look great. And then you think, who's actually going to be doing this? Oh, me. So, yeah, exactly. I was on harnesses, I was flying around the woods, swinging from trees, running up walls. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it reminds me of when I was this high and running around in my garden. So I'm just like a little child again, which is so much fun.
Castle Dracula? Yes, that's where I'm going. We people of the mountains believe at the castle there are vampires. Dracula and his wives, they take the form of wolves and bats. They leave their coffins at night and they feed on the blood of the living.
One of Stoker's sources was an article entitled Transylvanian Superstitions. And in that article, the author had recorded that the Romanian peasants in the part of Transylvania where she'd been living had this firm belief in vampires. Romania has somehow gotten this stigma, if you wish, simply because Bram Stoker happened to see that article. Transylvania is connected automatically with vampires.
3, 2, 1, go.
I wanted to use every part of every myth we've ever heard about or used. You know, Dracula has brides. He has 3 brides. And I thought, oh, that's really cool.
You, turn around.
Let me see your faces.
In a number of folklores, there was, in some villages, a person who was sort of assigned to be the chief vampire hunter.
Gentlemen, you will now be disarmed.
You can try.
To find one leading actress who's gorgeous and a great actress, that's a big enough coup, but then to find 3 more?
It's really, really good to be a monster in a monsters movie.
Oh, hello, Anna.
I think it's every actress' dream to play the vampire, the last of the Valerius.
How often do you get to play like a super bad person? It's pretty cool.
Elena and Sylvie and Josie are all, different and wonderful. And together they make, quite a visual statement.
And what's nice is that she's not just wearing a pretty dress and fainting, she definitely gets her hands dirty. I love action movies with girls, and I think it's unusual to find a role in that kind of a movie where she actually has something to do.
I'm just out to play and have fun, and I die pretty young because of that problem.
His name is Van Helsing. Your reputation precedes you.
Next time, stay close. You're no good to me dead.
This is a different sort of movie than I've done before, and I think that was another thing that was so appealing about it.
Action!
It's much more broad than I'm used to, but there's plenty for an actress to play in it. I mean, she's lost her entire family, her brother's turned into a werewolf, and,
The moment Kate's name came up, we just knew that she had that rare quality that you could believe she could play period, that she could be funny and sexy, and also strong enough.
Still you tried to kill him!
He's a werewolf. He's gonna kill people.
He can't help it, it's not his fault!
I know, but he'll do it anyway! She's a great actress, and she's very beautiful, obviously, but she's wickedly funny. All her other siblings are brothers, and they're all older than her. So there's that great quality where she knows how to mix it with the boys.
She has to be a good match for Van Helsing, but at the same time, you want to have a romance between these two characters, so she can't be simply a hard, badass character. There has to be a softer side to her, and we found the perfect actress to play this role in Kate Beckinsale. I love the Brides so much. They're great characters. They're very bad girls.
Hello.
And I just love our actresses.
Three Brides, I always imagined that Verona was the wife, and the other two are like the mistresses. Sylvia just has this walk about her and the way she speaks English that just feels worldly. She's felt so worldly, I thought she's a perfect Verona. Elena, I think, sent a tape from Madrid. Bob popped it in. He said, "You got to see this girl." I walked in there and I thought, she's nuts. This girl's insane. So I flew to London and I met Elaine. Of course, she's very sweet and quiet and it was like, oh my God, it's really acting.
Did I scare you?
And then there's the younger one who's like kind of coquettish and unsure, but sure is vicious when she needs to be.
Too bad. So sad.
Josie walked in the door and that was kind of it. And they're a hoot together, the three of them. Oh, God.
Oh, look at that. It's just like yours.
Oh, okay.
We really like it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with my brides. Elena from Spain, Sylvia from Italy, and Josie from here, so
find another bride.
they bring their own totally different energies to these roles.
Please! Say you will not try again.
My heart could not bear the sorrow if we fail again. When you're acting the vampire, you have to look gorgeous. You have to be wicked at the same time. It's not that easy, actually.
Give me just a little smile, like right before you go to kill someone. Need I say more?
The costumes are my favorite.
If I understand it well,
Gabriella Pescucci made the best costumes.
this is the first time that I will do the movie with the special effect. It's not easy. It's really. Steve tell me that likes the light color, and we decide one pink, violet, one yellow and a little bit green, and the other is only gold and yellow.
The costumes were just fantastic.
We'll look at this. We'll look at this and see. Hot? If I say it's hot, she'll never trust me again.
I will. Yeah. You know, they're not necessarily entirely practical because I had to do a lot of running around in rather high spindly heels and corsets and swim in a massive ball gown and all that stuff. So I always think if a woman gets through an action movie, she's way tougher than the boys are.
Anna is a heroine, but sexy, strong women. She can to be free from the period.
Go ahead, grab it.
Oh, you go ahead and grab it.
Always want to try and bring your actor or your actresses or whoever involved and put them in what feels like peril.
Ready, Josie?
You're gonna say action and jump.
And action!
That's what's fun.
Okay, Josie?
I love my job.
We have some pretty extensive flying rigs where we have Kate being flown away and Hugh running after diving, grabbing her feet, and they travel 30, 40 feet, about 25, 30 feet in the air. And then we trip them loose and they actually throw a full back layouts and land on the ground in these uncompromising positions, but it was all done with them, which is pretty amazing.
And I hadn't done any stunts with Kate, and I said, Kate, how do you feel about it? She said, yeah, it looks all right. We did 3 takes. She stuck everyone perfectly.
They're really gung-ho. They probably have a lot more ability than they want to admit. Right on it. Bam.
Kate actually is incredibly strong, and she'll tell you otherwise. You know, she'll maintain that she's a very sort of delicate English rose.
I did Underworld, where I'd never done any action or stunt training or anything. I mean, I was very glad that I'd done a movie that involved quite a few stunts that I was asked to do myself. So we had worked on all of the specific stunts quite heavily and intensely, whereas with this, I kind of showed up. And it was very lucky that I was familiar with, you know, with the wires and all that stuff. You know, you're going to be doing a flip in the forest. Go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Back on!
She runs great, she swings great, she fights. She's been upside down, she does flips, she does it all.
I did run for 7 months without stopping. Yeah, in heels.
That time we were shooting, it was about 0 or 10 degrees.
Like Elena there, impossible. Like Elena, perfect. Because she has no blood, so she's not never cold. I love Masquerade balls!
Stephen wanted her to just take off like she was jumping, but not really flying, but just like a pixie. Fly up and be all animated.
Woo!
She just nailed it every single time. Very happy to be there. She's got great body control, and I think the attitude is what shows.
Mariska, kill the stranger. Love to.
It was almost a year of designing for the brides. What was difficult was getting something that's a balance between a monster and something kind of beautiful. So it's like wicked but beautiful and nasty but beautiful. And then just getting the look. Are they naked? Are they not naked? That was a lot of iterations.
Do you like to fly?
And he came up with this idea of what they call a hybrid bride. What the hybrid bride is, it's effectively combining the best of makeup effects and the best of computer graphics to come up with a hybrid that looks and acts as a total real character.
A little bit. You're right. Squid the toe. No. Action!
We've shot them against a blue screen in blue suits so that we can extract all the blue later and just have their heads. Their heads are in the prosthetic makeup that then we will later take those heads and apply them to computer graphics bride bodies so that in shots where they fly right at camera, we're seeing our girls in these situations that we could never practically do.
Those girls, they are such troopers. I'm sure they will change their contracts from now on. I told them, look, from now on, if you see that you have to be on a blue screen stage, you double your fee.
Now!
They put all this plastic, all this latex in your face.
And they cast my whole body from head to toe. They measured everything. So we have a molding of my body. That was 6 months ago, so I was 24. So I'm stuck at 24 for the rest of my life somewhere.
Makeup is like 1 hour, and the special effects is like 1 hour and a half, so it's not too much.
We have to wear prosthetics on our face in order to cover our eyebrows, because when we transform into a horrible creature, we have no eyebrows, and it looks weird.
We enjoy ourselves doing the vampire things and flying and being so jealous and with the nails and the fangs and these long wigs, and it's great.
This is really cool to have character makeup, you know, instead of just pretty makeup. It's like you're a vampire. It's really cool.
Action!
It took a long time to put all of us together, but eventually he made the perfect cast.
If I'd thought it was going to be tricky, I would have probably panicked. It was when the day was over, I was like, oh, God, glad that went okay. That could have been a disaster.
Find Vulcan's gun! It has to be the silver bullets!
Vitum fuera marked.
Deinde, cum extractum vespertilionis sanguini nixtum est, sanguis puniceo colore amisso lacteus fit.
Gentlemen, we are dealing with the undead. Nosferatu. Yes, Nosferatu. The undead. The vampire.
Abraham Van Helsing is one of the characters in Stoker's novel Dracula, and the first significant thing about that is that that's Bram Stoker's first name, because Bram is a short form of Abraham.
You're looking exceptionally... Pardon me, Dr. Sewell. But I think Miss Mina should go to her room at once.
Professor Van Helsing, I don't believe it's as important as you seem to think it is.
Excuse me, Count Dracula, Professor Van Helsing.
I think Stoker had a soft spot in his heart for Van Helsing. The very fact that here's an author, creates a character, gives that character his own first name, I think that's significant. He obviously thinks of that character as the central character or the most heroic character in the novel.
Your will is strong, Van Helsing. Indeed.
Van Helsing is one of those classic movie archetypes. He's not always a nice guy. Ultimately, he's pretty much a good guy. But he doesn't always go about it by the book.
What was in there? A gentleman with a stake driven right through his heart. Oh, do you know anything about this? Yes, I did it. Who is he in there? His name was Count Dracula. How long has he been dead? about 500 years.
He was the original vampire hunter. And so I thought, oh, that's a good way to start. He'll be my hero. The eye movement was really great. Ready, and action.
You'll be hard to digest.
I'd hate to be such a nuisance.
My attitude was sort of like, okay, I love the idea of this character. How do I make him my own?
Here I come, ready or not!
I thought, well, what if I caught him at the beginning of his career, if you will? Made him younger, hipper, different. A hero who takes on the classic big monsters.
Now that I have your attention.
If you saw him a block away in silhouette, you'd know it's Van Helsing. He has a black hat and a black cape and a black coat, and he has a duster, like one of those old Western dusters, but it's black.
Van Helsing! You mother!
Van Helsing, in a sense, is an outsider. And although he might not be a monster in the sense that Frankenstein is, he's still viewed as something not normal, you know, something out of the ordinary.
No! You heard what he said!
My life, my job is to vanquish evil. I can sense evil.
I think it's a little bit of an ode to James Bond, you know.
Rings of garlic, holy water.
Every movie I have to come up with new and interesting props and weapons and stuff like that. It's part of the whole deal. But with this, I just thought, well, there's only certain ways you can kill a werewolf and certain ways you can kill a vampire, and thought, but now I have to take it to the next level.
My latest invention.
Ah, now this I like.
Yes, it's gas-propelled and capable of catapulting bolts in rapid succession at tremendous velocity. Just pull the trigger and hold on.
Every time I finish a script, I give it to my producing partner, Bob, and he reads it, and he says, this is who we need as a lead, and it's usually right. He read it, and he said, this is Hugh Jackman.
Cardinal has ordered you to keep me alive. For as long as possible.
We came to one name, and really one name only, and that was Hugh Jackman.
Why is it so important to kill this Dracula anyway?
Because he's the son of the devil.
Oh, I mean besides that.
Because if we kill him, anything bitten by him or created by him will also die.
He embodies everything that the character is about. He's dashing, he's strong, he is handsome, he's capable of kicking ass.
Back off, pal.
Girls want to be with him, guys want to be like him. He really is the only person that we ever thought about.
Are you all right?
Now that we've made the movie, it's hard to differentiate between the way I wrote Van Helsing as a writer and the way I see it now with Hugh Jackman.
Werewolf!
You know, it's like, it's kind of all about Hugh now, in a really good way. Whatever you put your hand, you take it away, just kind of spin towards it. This camera's mentioned to be here. I love the thought.
There's something very solid about Hugh. You immediately trust him and like him.
So if you want to save your family, you need to stay alive until Dracula is killed.
And who will kill them if not me? Who will show courage if not me?
If you go out there alone, you'll be outmanned and outpositioned, and you can't see in the dark.
He's somebody that you totally believe would be enduringly around saving the day.
In the morning, we will hunt him. Together.
He's strong and he's fit and he has good humor and he doesn't give off a sense of arrogance or vanity, and yet he's extremely cute as well. So he's just got everything that you really want a traditional, kind of in the best sort of old-fashioned sense, leading man to have.
I'll find you! I'll get you back and set you free! I swear to God!
Hugh has a reputation as being one of the nicest people in show business. I came onto this movie in an attempt to find something about Hugh's character to debunk that theory. He is genuinely the most generous, happy, uplifting person to be around. He really is a genuinely lovely guy.
Got another one of these?
There's got to be something bad about him, and I intend to find it and make it known throughout the world of show business. Hopefully. You always this popular?
Pretty much.
Here we go.
Very good, everybody. That was nice.
I flew up to Vancouver and visited him on X-Men and talked to him and asked him what he's been doing, how he feels about the wire work, basic things. Try to find out where he excels and where his weak points may be. And in Hugh's particular instance, there isn't any.
Ray kind of caught on to the fact that I'm a bit of a thrill seeker. I love all that stuff. And as a viewer of these movies, I just love watching the actor do it. Not because I'm going, wow, look at that actor, because it keeps me going in the story. And he said, mate, I totally agree. He says, wherever you can do something, I'm going to get you to do it.
3, 2, 1, go!
The great thing about doing X-Men first is that physically I was in good shape. I didn't have to do like 8 years of training to get into it, so I was ready. Although I have to say Van Helsing was probably 50% tougher than X-Men was, physically.
I kept thinking, you know what, if I fell off, I'm dead. Yep, I'm dead. Anyway, so I'm going along. I did 3 takes, and Troy, the second unit stunt guy, came up to me and he goes, man, I gotta tell you, in my entire career, I don't think I've ever seen an actor do a stunt like this. And I said, what do you mean? Why not?
Is that your sword or mine, darling?
This is the first time I've done a movie where ostensibly I've got the lead role, or name above title, as agents would call it. And that was something that I'd been offered before, but my agent had been wary of me taking and wanted to wait for the right project. So when this one came along, both of us sort of had a conference call and were just like, this is the one, this is it, let's go.
I felt like it was a good part for me. It was different enough from what I'd done before, and yet I could tell it was sort of in my strengths.
Action!
It's that kind of swashbuckling film and that kind of character where this is not a spoof, this is not all tongue-in-cheek, it's very real, but there's a lightness of touch to it, there's a little wink in the eye, there's a kind of panache to it that those old 40s movies used to have. I think that's why it's got such a unique look and yet somehow feels slightly familiar.
And cut. Ladies and gentlemen, as far as Van Helsing's concerned, Kate Beckinsale and Hugh Jackman are finished on this movie.
Can I get a proper hug?
I want it to be the most amazing masquerade ball, and I thought it has to be really twisted, because basically it's, if Dracula threw a masquerade ball, what would it be like? And so I thought it has to be really twisted and weird, and we have to have everything there, flamethrowers and jugglers and high wire acts and tightrope walkers, and I wrote a veritable Cirque du Soleil.
I remember Steve talking to me over the phone, and he said, I've got an idea for the ballroom scene. I wanted to have a kind of feel of Cirque du Soleil, and I thought, I'd just been to see O in Vegas. And I was like, Steve, that's brilliant. So the next draft for the script I get, it is Cirque du Soleil, basically.
Roxburgh, you're going to start out here. Come. And we're going to find a way for you to go right through. We have 2 artists that were formerly with Cirque du Soleil on different shows. Both of them, Patrice Wojciechowski and Laurence Racine, were in Nouvelle Experience. And we have a variety of contortion and more classic juggling acts. Where's the lines? Dancers, linea, don't see.
She found Deborah Brown, who basically choreographed all of the Cirque du Soleils. And we got her to come into Prague and figured it out for us. And it was great. She did a great job. Just like, she brought it to life.
The first day I walked into the dancers audition and saw 100 dancers practicing, I was overwhelmed.
You are all dead aristocrats. Okay, you've been invited to Dracula's costume ball. So I need to know that you can be aristocrats in your style. They're used to wearing, you know, beautiful things. Ladies, you never put your hands here. You never put your arms here. Arms must always have space. Very pretentious.
And
We've hired almost every single dancer we saw, 100, and I can't tell you what a great city to do a ballroom scene in, because we have found 100 fantastic dancers. Also, we found 17 local circus artists.
The intention is to sell yourself on this salute. Your eyes, your hands. Don't be shy now. It's not the time.
It's a big scene, and you have to make sure that you take everything into consideration. But I actually enjoy working with large groups and numbers. It's exciting to see it all take shape.
Slowly bring it up. I meet your eyes slowly, like this. Show me. Yes.
There's actually two different waltz rhythms that we have. The opening, which is a typical Viennese waltz. One a lot slower, Dracula's dance, where Dracula actually dances with Anna.
Steve described it very, very well. And the choreographer also spoke to me about where she was headed with it. But I think he really wanted to give himself, and in particular the choreographer, a chance to get a sense of where the musical thought here might be heading. And so we had to do it very early on. I got the guys to go for this concept of a solo soprano. So there's this very exotic, beautiful woman in the scene who's just singing these notes. But the thing you heard was literally maybe 6 or 7 tracks on a synthesizer.
And playback.
But that was just a guide track. It's going to be very different when we do it with our 115-piece orchestra and our soprano soloist and our choir. It's nice to have that to work to, just for a sense of where this is going, rather than just clicks.
A lot as a child and was extremely unathletic in any other way. And then having gone through, you know, that whole training, I turned up and couldn't dance to save my life. And Richard Roxburgh and I were just appalling. I mean, appalling, disgraceful in the rehearsals. Plus, which he just has a very funny face, and I was laughing mainly throughout the whole thing.
Everyone? Where would you like to see it from?
Should we do the top? Should we go from the very top?
Go from the very top?
Right when we come through the doors, and you're the first song,
Okay.
as we come through the door and come up, we'll see we'll come low, see all the jugglers and acrobats we're putting in. When we'll start to tilt up, we'll see the contortionist, we'll place her just right. As we start to come up, the stilt walker should be coming through the room towards us.
I'll put the ball in front of them then.
First of all, I think how difficult this is going to be to shoot. I never think about, oh, isn't this great that I wrote it and now it's going to be hit the celluloid now. I'm basically thinking, how the hell am I going to shoot all this stuff? Okay, so let's do one, let's just look at it from the beginning.
Okay, so everyone, this is Stephen Sommers, the director.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, Steve. This is our ballroom gang. Okay.
All right. It's all, Deborah, it's all lumped. It's all a big lump.
Přímo před nima, takže jako jsem
Okay.
víc a ty seš ty Já jsem tady, že jo? Tady na tomhle místě, no, jsem stál, teďka jsem dostal sem, takže někam sem nechci.
Okay.
We rehearsed it in a very tight formation.
Dancers, they have to be aware he's going to come through. They have to open if we're not aware.
But obviously the camera they need people in certain places, so the dancers have had to be very flexible.
So you have to tell the dancers, be careful because Vota will pass in front of you. So they just have to be careful and go a little bit slower. Okay?
Key is always to, try to take the film into the world that the story's about. Going to Eastern Europe, to Prague, which, 150 years ago when a story took place, it would have been Transylvania.
You can't build St. Nicholas's Church, you can't pay for that sort of set. It really does make the film so distinctive and extremely special.
If you duplicated this kind of set, it just wouldn't look real. No one would believe you. This is probably the most extraordinary building in Prague. Everything you can see on camera that is on the walls is it. I mean, we weren't allowed to add anything, not that we'd want to. Just the candles and the people and the orchestra and the nice lunch behind me. That's about it.
How long did it take you to build this set, Alan?
To build this set? About 700 years.
Everybody marked. Here we go. And playback. Ready, and door.
Really proud of what we did there. It was really remarkable. In fact, when you say the Masquerade Ball, which part? There's so many different things that happen in that, and it's an enormous scene. And I'm trying to remember the number of days we filmed, but I'm still astounded by what was accomplished in there.
It's still an amazing sort of work of art, and so to be allowed to use the National Treasure in that way, to sort of rampage through it with a film crew, is rare privilege that may not exist for too much longer.
That was a really extraordinary set. I mean, partly because it was a real place. It was also, I think, the coldest I've ever been in my life. It was colder inside that church than it actually was outdoors, I think, because of the stone and everything. So I was mainly concerned with that. I'm glad that we don't all look blue.
Good, except for my eye. It's beautiful and it's gigantic and it's everything that we had hoped for this sequence. There were many, many restrictions that were placed on us in using the location.
It was a deconsecrated church. Nevertheless, we had to be massively careful of upsetting anybody or moving anything because the religious artifacts, of course, are still dotted about.
A lot of the religious stuff is being covered up, the fact that there are altars and so on, with drapes. And it's the restrictions on us as to what we can rig to, which is very little, evidently. Are we doing anything with this paint color in here? Will this be darker?
Let us paint it.
Let us paint it.
Not as far as I know.
Better keep the light off of it.
Are we talking about
we're going to hang drapes.
Hanging drapes.
Okay. All the arches will hang drapes.
If there was a bishop holding a crozier, we had to wrap gold around his hat to make him look maybe slightly like an Indian prince, something like that. So we used lots of plastic, and we used lots of shields, and we used lots of drapes and all sorts of oddments to try an art department, including taking out the pews, of course, to turn it into a dance floor.
All the candelabras we had made ourselves, and the prop department came up with these candles, and it's one of those filmic things. The last thing you want to be doing is saying, oh, hold on, we've got to go and light 150 candles. Can you hold the film? You can't.
We'll stand by for one more rehearsal. Doing great.
We never want them waiting for us. We want to be ahead of the game at all times. It looks fabulous when all the candles are lit. It really does. It looks superb. And of course, it's also sensitive to where we are, so it's ideal.
I don't know how the chemistry all came together. They got all excited about the script or the project or, you know, working together, but to have, you know, the production designer, Alan Cameron, and the cinematographer, Alan Davio, and the costume designer, Gabriella Pascucci, all three of them, like, at the top of their game. Just, I don't know, they magically all came together and just got it, and I think they've done their best work.
Because here's the thing, if I'm shooting this way, and even back, I probably won't notice the two tables. Or if we do, we just move them back. Yeah. Like, this could be somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen's so enthusiastic and creative about it all that you sort of ratchet yourself up to try and get up to that level of energy, which is a great process.
I'm just going to ask you, in the sense that, is that a good thing for you? Because then you don't have to...
Well, the only thing is the table up there is gloriously backlit, and it's you've got a lot of nice things there, but I understand what you're saying. You want to be able to shoot, you know, what would be a reverse. So as you know, you have individual moments that you do really appreciate for themselves, but mostly when you go into a situation like that, it's pulling off the whole thing of making it a real place and putting people in there and letting their imaginations go wild. I think that is the real achievement for a cinematographer, and pointing at one individual thing or another usually is not it. In the end, what you really appreciate is it's all part of the magic.
La parrucchiera, cazzarola. Che ne so, lo so.
I think it's good. It worked.
You don't have to rub it in, but yes, Van Helsing does have a marvelous costume. And I get stuck with a jester's outfit.
This movie is interesting because I start that from the period, but I have the possibility to go with the fantasy. I can fly with the fantasy. That is important. For me, there is a lot extra. And everybody is black, dark, gold. And Steve wanted that Anna was the surprise for help us, the color in this case.
Thought it would be great to make her stand out because Dracula's basically made her belle of the ball there, and I think that visually it's just worked out extremely well.
How does it feel to be a puppet on my string?
I won't let you trade me, Count.
I have no intention of trading you. If I know Van Helsing, which I do, he's not planning on making a trade either. Neither of us has ever settled for hell.
Dracula swings her over, and this is where we see that Dracula has no reflection in a mirror. And by the way, we may notice that no one else in the entire ballroom has a reflection either.
In this stuff with the mirror, is it going to be me in a blue,
two blues there,
thong, spray painted blue?
Yes, we'll do one take with you in a blue thong. That's good. That's right.
That's correct.
Yeah. That is correct.
With blue contact lenses.
Yes, the blue thong, nothing else, just the blue thong. We want to do one take like that, and then...
and then the other like normal.
As a visual effects supervisor on the set, I have to make sure that everything's photographed correctly, because that's the first stage of a great special effects shot. In this case, the first thing we do is lay out with Stephen what the shot's going to be. And then we have our match movers set up. And in this case, since we're dealing with a large set that's very organic looking, we're using a transit system. So we take measurements off of everything. Because what will happen is, especially in Stephen's movies, the camera is always moving. And we have to go back on the computer and make a computer camera that matches that exact motion. So no matter what we stick in the scene, it looks like it was there originally. So that's key to the process.
I'm looking for a new bride, Anna. Someone strong and beautiful.
This morning we shot with Anna leaning back on a pedestal.
Here we go. Play back.
And so we'll remove that pedestal and it'll look like she's floating in midair as Dracula's holding on to her. And of course, you only see her reflection in it, even though you're seeing them both in the foreground. And we boom back and we end up seeing all these other dancers in that same scene.
Don't we make a lovely couple?
Oh my God.
I am looking for a new bride, Anna. Someone strong and beautiful.
So we photographed that with all that action, including seeing the camera in the mirror. And then we photograph with just Kate doing her move as if she's dancing by herself. And we'll use bits and pieces of her to paint back in where Richard was holding her. And then we also shot what we call a clean plate without anybody in the scene, because we have to go through and paint out where all the other dancers are as well. So in the finished scene, she'll be dancing by herself. So that means that we have to replace everything in the mirror.
Okay, here we go. Let's do it. So let's cut that out. She says, you have no heartbeat, and then you go down. Perfect.
This is a really fun shot to work on, where Dracula's just dipped Anna, and his mouth kind of distends and, and opens and reveals these big vampire fangs. We are going to be integrating CG elements on a live-action face. We have tracking markers on the face. With those dots, we can track those and animate a 3D mesh to that face and kind of capture the kind of same rotation and motion that's happening in the live-action plate. It's a 2D background plate, but then the actual elements themselves have to be generated in 3 dimensions. So the mesh itself is a 3D recreation of the face. The jaw is then modeled based on kind of connecting these points in space. So in the actual composite, what we're able to do is kind of track a mesh onto this plate and stretch the mouth open using kind of a deformation. So you can kind of grab points on this mesh and open it or animate it however you want, kind of slide it around. The mouth inside actually is a separate piece, which has been modeled and rendered and animated. So once that render is completed, then I can slide it into this composite underneath this mouth and kind of reveal it as we move these points of the face around. Carl bumps into the flamethrower. He's just kind of mimes that action, and of course nothing's coming out. In a shot like that, it all has to be planned and timed correctly so that all of the action kind of mimics that event of the flames being blown out and catching Dracula's cape on fire.
Dracula gets caught on fire, ticked off, and hucks him across the room. When you want to do a transition from one thing to another, if you can make a cutaway that doesn't really look like a cutaway, that makes our job a lot easier, and it saves money, and the producers are happy. Of course, it kind of helps that Anna stands up right at the point where we want to make that switch. So we took our digital double of the fire breather guy and our animation group, hucked him through the digital air, and then we had our simulation team go and have his clothes move, and our lighting team try and match the lighting of the ballroom set.
The real fire breather was walking out over here, so we have to go through frame by frame and paint him out from the scene.
And then here on set at ILM, they shot some brilliant fire elements where they actually took a dummy and started, spraying fire on it. They even kind of rotated that action to kind of mimic the action that's in the plate. Then we can start integrating those fire elements and stacking them up.
We couldn't put any sort of rigging in there that would allow us to accomplish the trapeze work that we wanted to do, because Deborah was in fact prepared, and what we initially set out to do was to do all of the trapeze work live on the location, but the restrictions of the location required that we move to visual effects.
This is his point of view, so you can look right home. Not right in the lens, try to look right above it. He's coming in, he's rocking in, and he's going to grab you and fly up, so I think you just got to brace yourself and throw back, maybe.
If you could do it while you were shooting it, it would create its own problem, because it's hard to do wire work and it's hard to do these things, but at least you would know what you got. Instead, what we had to do was we had to shoot plates there. What we got there at the church would be a background plate where you would just see the dancers in the background, knowing that we were going to add Hugh or a digital double later in the sequence. There was some storyboarding. There were a couple of shots that were previs. The shot where he basically off-screen hits the trapeze artist and then he goes off on the trapeze. That shot was pre-visualized. Pre-visualization is something that you do on a computer ahead of time to sort of work out exactly what the shot is.
We had to pre-plan the shots, work closely with Stephen. They designed what the shots were. Those shots were then looked at by ILM, and then ILM comes up with the technical approach. They'll talk to stunts, special effects people. They'll say, all right, well, what can you do here? What can you guys give us, and what can we do?
Everything you're talking about is digital double. We can't do is digital double with the first.
Well, no. What I do is have him. Yes, of course. But I have to be digital when he switches.
Yeah, I guess that's one. We had to make sure that we photographed it with a camera move that we thought would match what an acrobat would do. In Los Angeles, they would shoot acrobats against blue screen. And they would also shoot Hugh or his double going through a certain amount of acrobatics as well. In some cases, we got totally digital doubles, the ones where they flip, double flip, all of those types of things were done as computer graphic characters. We had cases where Hugh would swing up the camera, slow motion, he'd turn around, the blades pop out, so he's going to cut this thing. Well, Hugh's not actually holding on to anything, so we have to add the blade popping out in his hand. He starts to turn, so that was done on wires against blue screen, overcranked. Now, one of the problems you run into is he's actually supported by wire here, not actually holding on. So in some cases, we have to kind of cut off his real arm, the image of his real arm, and pivot it so it looks like he's truly holding up his body with the one arm.
Anna! Wake up!
The scene where Kate gets picked up by Van Helsing, that's all digital doubles in that particular scene. Why don't you tell us what you want to see?
Well, here's what we're trying to accomplish. We thought might be really cool. Is you see Hugh and Kate, they fly up, and they let go, and we pan them. They land and slam into that wall. Okay. Full body. And then the shot we're doing now, we overlap that a little bit tighter as they go, bam! And then they start having their conversation. And then they come back around and look, and we see what's happened, what's going on down here.
Okay. There's a shot that's used in the trailer over and over and over again, which is not in the movie. And it's a shot of Hugh and Kate Beckinsale as he lifts her up into the balcony. And the reason we didn't end up using the shot in the movie is because, unfortunately, the way the plate was photographed, it never really looked convincing. So because of that, we were sort of boxed into a corner, and we cut the shot from the movie.
This should just be beauteous. Here it is, 6, 1, and.
There's a lot of pressure in making movies of this size, but 90% of it comes from me. As a filmmaker, I like making these movies because there's just so much to play with visually. And we've done things that they couldn't do back then.
There's still some of the same techniques we share. I mean, we still use matte paintings, we still do elaborate miniatures. We can do more with the miniatures because we have more sophisticated pyrotechnics and rigs and hydraulic systems. But on top of that, we have the best of the modern new computer technologies that allow us to give these creatures and these characters a freedom that they really never had back in the classic horror days.
Wonderful thing about the digital world that we're all in now is that there are no limitations on one's imagination. The only limitations are your pocketbook.
There's a complexity involved there that requires keeping a lot of balls in the air. So if you're doing that, you want to go into those sequences prepared.
We had quite a few things that were very challenging. Just about everything Van Helsing was challenging. I don't think ILM did any simple shots on this particular project.
It's been a pleasure knowing you. Au revoir.
For example, Mr. Hyde's sequence, in putting that together, we had an animatic to refer to help us plan that.
We animated the action first. We didn't really know what the shots were going to be, and we kind of designed and animated the action, and then went in and covered the scene as if, you know, you had two real actors and you were finding the good angles.
We did a lot of different concept explorations. What we came up with was someone who is really just a grotesque-looking human being, who we basically sort of felt like he was one of those British backstreet thugs that's been down drinking all night at the pub and come and bash the crap out of you, you know.
And action! 4 children, 3 goats, whoosh, and a rather large massacre of poultry.
When we saw the way Shuler performed as Frankenstein, we thought, wow, this guy really, even with all this stuff on him, moves really in an agile way, and Shuler was really happy to do it. And we made a helmet with a picture of Mr. Hyde on the top so we could work out our compositions. It takes a real leap of faith on the part of the director and the editors and the producer, because when they get all the material back, the first reaction is, how is this going to work? Shuler came up to ILM and we strapped him in a motion capture suit and had him go through the same performance. And having done that rough animation, it gave a really good guide so that he could have a look at what we really roughly wanted Hyde to do. We'd set up the motion capture so we got real-time feedback, so Shuler and Stephen could see him as Mr. Hyde on the monitor in the scene, composited real-time, and it made it very easy.
You're the great Van Helsing.
We decided to treat this not as a computer graphic character, but as an actor, and then asked Robbie Coltrane to lend his voice for the character.
I think you'll find the view over here rather spectacular.
The facial animation was based on Robbie Coltrane's visual portrayal of the character when he was acting. The combination created a really unique character that comes out really strong on screen.
My turn!
I think he'll be probably the highest achievement that's ever been seen in terms of a photoreal, completely synthetic character.
Kill the stranger. Love to.
One of the main things that Stephen wanted was to see these flying brides fly up to camera and see the actresses truly performing.
Do you like to fly, Anna?
We used 2 different techniques to build the same character. Their body was digital, their face was shot on film. We wanted to shoot the face and hair of the performer, but at the exact same time track how their body moved. That meant we needed to use the motion capture on the film set with the huge amounts of lights that would be there also. So we had to come up with techniques that would make all of the little markers on the performer much brighter than they otherwise would be. So we developed these custom circuit boards that have a real high-powered light source on them. It's an LED light-emitting diode. Human can't see the light. You can stare at it and you wouldn't even know if it's on or not. But as soon as you look through one of our motion capture cameras, which can see infrared light, then you notice how bright it is. The first thing were the markers, and we could hide all of the custom wires that went to each one of those. So the suit would not have wires running all over that the brides would get tangled up in. We had 24 motion capture cameras because we knew people and things would always get in the way. We knew at times our motion capture cameras would be looking directly at a film light, and even though we'd sort of knocked out a lot of the light, we'd still have some in there that would cause problems. So here's the whole process. We shot background plates in Prague. We had to track how the film camera moves through space. The next step was, how does the bride move? So we create these animatics with a digital version of the bride flying through that shot. And this gives us an idea of how she moves relative to the film camera. We convert them to something that would be useful for the hybrid shoot itself. So the cameramen knew how to move the camera, so the stunt people knew how to move the brides, so the brides knew exactly what to do, and we'd have a performance that actually fit with the shot that was shot months earlier. We took those 2 things and inserted them into the original background plate. And once we stick it on the 3D bride, we'll get something that looks like this vinyl here.
We typically measured time by shots. We'd assign the shots, and animation, might take anywhere from a week to a month for a given shot. And once the animators start, then we tried to start the technical director soon after, so he could start roughing in his lighting while the animator was still working. And then we'd overlap that with the compositor starting to work. And each artist typically had 2 or 3 shots that they were working at one time. But generally, a shot could take easily a month to 2 months, in some cases a few months, to accomplish, just because of all the little pieces to be dealt with.
Is such an exciting sequence. It's just wrought with peril from one end to the other, and this is just such a beautiful way to end it.
Creatures were pretty much the top end of what we can do with creature technology today. We had all these hair simulations, flesh simulations. We had subsurface scattering to give a sort of more organic look to the hell-beast creature. We had to transform Hugh Jackman into a big, scary werewolf, but also Stephen Sommers wanted the werewolf to be sexy looking. And both of them to be like rock stars. They have these manes of elaborate hair and so on. So it was a big challenge because it really required the best of what we can do in terms of creating computer graphics creatures. And because these creatures can leap around the place and fly, we had to fabricate the rest of the set. But we also then had to transform our hero and our villain back and forward into characters. And so I think overall that presented a lot of challenges, and I think the results is a full-on two-fisted battle between two monsters that any horror fan would love to work on something like that. Finally, when Hugh transforms from the werewolf back to Van Helsing at the end of the film, and Anna is dead now, and he's cradling her in her arms, and this was something that Stephen always wanted, a really iconic image of the werewolf holding his love and howling at the moon, and then seamlessly go to Van Helsing. Basically, a lot of his fur and some of his skin just sort of wafts off him. And so it's a little different from the other transformations, but it fulfilled this need to be not horrific.
I think that there are people that will see this movie that think the visual effects are phenomenal, like the most unbelievable visual effects they've ever seen. I'm one of those people.
I can see everyday life all the time. For some reason, my sensibilities, especially as a writer, I guess. As a writer, I love to create stuff that you haven't seen before.
See, Mark?
Picture up! Ready and action!
Oh my God. The Frankenstein monster!
Come and get it, Frank! Then we can get more pictures up here. Oh, you son of a...
Sorry, mate.
Don't mess up the makeup now.
What are you looking at?
Together.
You, win. You don't want this.
All right. Sorry. Oh, flies. There's flies.
I give you Van Halen!
May others be as passionate in their hunting of you. couldn't have. It's a low-budget movie. I'm sorry.
Beats me.
Action! Where are we going? Through that window!
Oh! You win. Very good.
Now! Jeez, you frightened the hell out of me. I wasn't ready for that.
Any part of me like to catch fire just at this point, including coattails or hair? No, good.
It won't happen again.
Why did they attack in daylight?
Clearly they wanted to catch me. It won't happen again. Oh,
Friggin' line. Right. What's the line?
I'm a cold, heartless bitch.
Can somebody give me a script? Because I'm sure those aren't the line.
Hey, Daddy! I'm home!
I know what lurks in your luster heart.
Your father didn't have this or that.
You got another one of this?
He didn't have this cheap souvenir.
Oh! Is that your sword or mine, darling? Oh! Sorry!
See, look at.
Oh, are you in trouble?
Someday when I do a big budget movie, we won't have problems like this.
Oh!
My life, my job, is to vanquish evil. I can sense evil. This.
What?
What did you say?
It's just get out of there. The look, but even the more pain just goes. Oh. See that? That was acting. It was me acting. That's why I stay back here.
It's a flesh wound. Flesh wound.
Hey, I know you.
And neither you nor I will be able to stop my
Okay, I'll be in here. I've got cable.
Cigarette.
We're rolling!
There are those who go through the front door. There are those who speak their lines a little bit better than us.
Don't trip.
Yeah, I would never trip. Oh.
I'm okay! I'm okay! I'm all right! Here she comes! Let's go! You gotta be kidding me!
We're out of film, so I think we should probably cut.
Hey, you guys can't leave me here. Hey, where are you going? Come down that